doing CE.5e, voter registration and participation in elections. Today we're focusing on how you can go about registering to vote in the Commonwealth of Virginia. The United States and Virginia and all over the country, only citizens who register to vote can participate in primary and general elections. That is one of the key things about gaining your citizenship from units a couple months ago, is once you become a citizen of the United States, whether naturalized or born here, you have the power to vote. There's a couple distinctions here between a primary and a general election. Primary elections are when candidates of the same party compete against one another for the nomination, and in the general election, the winning Democrat goes on to verse the winning Republican, and any independent or other party candidates are in the general election ballot. So in many ways, in a primary election, R versus R, and D versus D, and then in a general election, the R versus the D. And what we have in November is a general election. Primary elections usually occur throughout the summer, leading into the general election. And there are some trivia, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so a couple things. In order to be a qualified voter in the state of Virginia, one, you must be a United States citizen. Duh. You must be a resident of the state or Commonwealth of Virginia. You must be at least 18 years of age on the day of the election. Someone asked, well, what if I turn 18 the day after the election? That's too bad. Unfortunately, you have to wait for the next election before you can vote. And in the state of Virginia, every state has different requirements on this, but in Virginia, you must register at least 22 days before the general election. Someone asked earlier, if I'm not 18 on the day I register to get that 22-day requirement in, can I still vote? And my answer is yes, as long as you're 18 on the day of the general election. So if you're 17, 22 days out, still register to vote. How do I vote and register? Well, one, you can do it in person, common way. And doing it in person, you can either do it at the local Department of Motor Vehicles, which I know you all love, or you can do it at a registrar's office. Both places are perfectly acceptable places where you can register to vote. Finally, the last way you can do it is by mail-in application. In this, you'll get the registration packet, you'll mail it in, they need your signature, that's a key requirement. You mail it in, and then you will be registered, you'll get your registration card in the mail. Again, this is also kind of a way a lot of people do voting on a general election. There are what we call absentee ballots, where people who know they're not going to be around for the general election, or they're either elderly, they might have a job in a neighboring county, various reasons, they might even be traveling for their job. They can vote via absentee. Same thing for our troops serving us overseas. There are three main factors in determining what groups of people are more likely to vote. The first one is education levels. If you see by the chart behind me, people with higher education levels, represented by the darker green, have higher trust in our government. That leads to higher turnout. People who have a college degree or postdoctorate, Juris Doctrine, MBA, stuff like that, those are people who are going to be more likely to vote in an election. The next thing in determining who is likely to vote is age. I ask kids in class, by raising your hand, who is more likely to vote? The elderly ladies, the golden girls, or the college party students? The correct answer is, if you look at the chart, elderly people are more likely to vote than younger people. Again, these numbers are about 12 years old, but in the 2000 election, and it still holds true, that look at the percentages, they are higher as you get older. Look at 18 to 24-year-olds. Almost pathetic. And then there is income. People with a higher income, if you look at the chart behind me, are more likely, it's almost like a perfect stairwell going down. They are more likely to vote than people with the lower income levels. If you see here, people with less than 15,000, this is based off 2004 numbers, are only 38% likely to vote. People who make 75,000 or more, almost 75% likely to vote. Okay? A couple reasons why citizens fail to vote, and this could go on, but according to the state of Virginia, these are the two reasons why the state wants you to know people don't vote. There's no interest, lack of interest, and I always write the word, so you remember here, people are apathetic. They just don't care. And they don't care about politics, they'd rather not get involved. Okay? or they forget to register. And again, the key number is 22 days in Virginia before the general election, you can register to vote. And again, it's interesting, and you look at charts over charts, there's higher turnout in voter participation in presidential years. We're talking like 2012, 2008, 2004, 2000. Then off-year elections. We have an off-year election coming up in 2014. That is when 1/3 of the United States Senate is up for re-election and all 435 members of Congress. My prediction then, we're probably going to see around a 40% voter turnout for those elections. Not great. And again, as you see, charts, again, the older you are, the more likely you are to vote, and that is it. I hope you understood CE.5e, voter participation.